Oh yay, oh yay, oh yay. Pray silence and take note. Richard Ramsay, writing in the opinion column of the business section of the Irish News today, catches up on the wise and honourable guru of the economy, Mr. McCormack, who sits with me now. And Richard Ramsay says, some short-term pain for long-term gain, the key to future happiness. Where you've been saying that for all last year.
Well, I suppose it's common sense, no pain, no gain.
Well, it certainly seems to be going in the right direction, because we're still, and I suppose it really bears testimony to that. The economy, according to the Ulster Bank Business Today, the monthly sort of review, the economy has slowed down, but there is an inexorable clawing forward.
Well, I suggest we recall what we described it as for the last 6 to 8 months, a fragile recovery.
Yeah.
And that is, the momentum is definitely forward, but there is a lot of world uncertainties which actually are coming in and out every now and again to cause little trips. But the bottom line is, there is no doubt about it. It may be 2 steps forward and 1 back, but we're definitely moving forward. Yeah. There is no doubt about
Ever
it.
so
And I suppose complementing that is the other factor, I think, which the papers seem not to be touching on at present. I think we have adapted to the changing circumstances. There's a level of flexibility and acceptance among us, the business community, among us, the people. We have taken a step back. We have realised that for whatever reason, perhaps we were living a wee bit beyond our means. And I think that is also a contributing factor that people have adjusted slightly.
Yeah. Mind you, there's adjustment and adjustment. The trade unions are threatening action at the proposed job cuts, which will be a consequence to budgetary constraints.
Well, you know, not for me to double guess the trade unions, but suffice to say that there's always an ability to stop things short term, but you must look at global trends. The reality is that we have to, if we're going to pass on a quality of life to the next generation, if we take a step back here, we have to reduce our dependence on the public sector. We have to become more competitive. We have to acknowledge, whether we like it or not, these are facts, that literally perhaps we haven't taken the full pain, or certain elements of our economy haven't taken the full pain of the global recession we've had for the last 5 years. I mean, very few people I know in the private sector haven't taken a significant, at least 10% drop in real earnings, perhaps 20. Now, you know, we can't have a real world where people believe we get. There has to be a combination, and there has to be a realistic thing that we're in a changing environment where none of us may have the same job all our life. And because we have a job for 20 years shouldn't say we're entitled to the job the following year. We have to respond to market needs. And surely, ultimately, whilst that may cause short-term pain, long-term, isn't it far better we're all contributing to a changing and evolving world than actually focusing on what happened yesterday and ensuring we're entitled to, because we got something 5 years ago, we're entitled to it today.
There are times when I know exactly why I love you, McCormack. That is so good.
Do not love me.
That is so good.
You walked me into a very controversial area there.
That is good. I like that.
And I'm glad you like it.
Now, you see, how heartened were you at the Web conference in Dublin? A huge boost to the economy down there. Some 20,000 people came to it and whatever. And they were talking about web technology and where we go in the future. I love the guy who said, it's not enough, I think he was the head of Facebook or something, he said, it's not enough to be the Silicon Valley of Europe. You need to be the best in the world. And go beyond the Silicon Valley in your development of technology.
Well, I think we've said here, there is nothing to prevent any of us in the current global market, if we wish, and if we have the desire, if we have the passion, there's nothing to prevent any of us ultimately becoming best in town. You know, best at what we do.
Nothing short of best in town will do for us, because we are about the business of building a future.
I have to say, you talked about the future, you talked about the conference. The most amazing conference that this island has hosted in many years was the Young World Conference. It brought the young leaders from around the world to Dublin. And I suggest to you or any of your colleagues or anybody out there, have a look at the very powerful small piece on YouTube that they did at that conference, Martin McAleese, on actually the impact of what we were trying to say, what peace had done for Ireland.
Yes.
It's an amazing, because at times we take so much for granted. It's a very short YouTube video, but I can tell you it's Tommy Gorman did it.
Oh, dear Tommy,
It's an amazing piece of documentary. I can equally tell you, one of my colleagues, Judith Shields, was at the conference, and she's the head of the accountancy student body. And
Makes sense.
The impact that conference had on her, I've heard so much about it, is phenomenal. And as I said a few weeks ago, I was in Montreal, as you know. Believe it or not, when I lifted the paper on the plane from New York to Montreal,
you were getting the story.
The half-page story was on the conference.
Yeah, absolutely.
In Dublin.
Things are happening. The Bank of Ireland approving 456 million for businesses in the north. It's new money for Northern Ireland business for the first 9 months of 2014, 456 million, an increase of 59% in the same period last year. What are they seeing that many people aren't seeing?
Well, I think to be fair to the Bank of Ireland, and they have put their mouth, put their actions where their money is.
Yep.
Their money. They have been saying for some time that there is now a little bit of confidence coming back into the market, that people want to invest. And in order to grow business, you must invest first of all. So what you're really seeing now is the foundation seeds of confidence and expectation of future growth. Not necessarily future growth, but also an identification of potential new markets or new business opportunities. And people are now wishing to invest and making business cases to the bank. And the bank is obviously thinking there is some good rationale behind these cases.
They're listening. The whole...
The current Bank of Ireland head in Northern Ireland is County Down man.
Who is he?
You would have known his parents. He's a gentleman called Sheehan from Kilkeel.
Wow.
His mother and father would have been prominent school teachers for many years.
And he's in there doing that job.
Yeah, he's come from Dublin, Bank of Ireland, Dublin, to the north.
Into the north. We recall, we talked about him, the boss of the bank from Rostrevor, the man who was the chairman of the bank. The name? Whittaker. Ken Whittaker.
Well, the architect of the great Lamass years.
Yeah. But I mean, he was the architect of the modern Ireland, many would suggest, in terms of our fiscal well-being. No, okay, there was a huge hiccup, not in his making, I would suggest.
Well, I think to be fair, I'm not sure the fiscal, but I think what you have to acknowledge is that Whittaker is acknowledged as certainly one of the brainchilds of the transformation of the Irish economy.
Yeah.
He was very prominent with Lamass. He brought in that whole area of post-industrialization. It was the idea of manufacturing. He was the encouragement behind linking, I think, education to business. He then went on to become head of the National University as he retired. He's one of those people that you'll rarely hear one say a bad word about. No. And to the contrary, I've met him a few times, but I say I don't know him at all, but I've sat beside him actually at a dinner. But you could not form any conclusion other than that you are sitting in the presence of greatness. Very humble, but his words are today, even when he's plus 90. He wrote a most amazing article, I think, for the Irish Times interview when he was 90 a few years ago, and it was a very succinct overview of where we've come from and where we can go to. And I think that there will always be difficult days. We've all had them. We will have more. But surely the hope has to be that beyond those difficult days there'll be brighter days.
Absolutely. Whittaker came, as you say, from modest origins, from modest provenance. But yet, modest became great in the passage of his journey. What's the factor that trips over modest to great?
Well, I think that's hard to judge, but I think ultimately you influence your own thinking as well. But I mean, God rest my father was born in Water Street there in Rostrevor, and Ken Whittaker and Ben Dunn were born in that little Water Street, you know, the little...
Yeah, yeah. Coming up to the bridge.
Yeah, just down the back, takes you back into the past the film, former Annie O's. Just
Yeah,
down
yeah,
there.
yeah. Yes, yes, yes.
Pete Ryan.
Yeah.
Pete Ryan holds the palace down there for
My
many.
goodness,
The great
indeed.
Pete Ryan, but
They all came from that little.
yeah, well, Don. I'm not talking about my father, but Don and Whitaker came from that, that area, and what it does show you is we've always said this in this program. Your current circumstances don't determine where you can go. They only determine where you start. And really, Whitaker and all these people are examples of that. I mean, Obama is a tremendous example of that.
He's not doing so well at the moment.
Well,
Feargal.
again, leaders at times, unfortunately, you may have not to be popular for a while. I don't see much wrong with what he's suggesting.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
If he's suggesting that the less well-off have to be brought up to enjoy a quality of life, a basic minimum quality of life and a welfare state, I think that long-term, over a period of 100 years, he's correct.
Oh, absolutely.
Now,
I would say so.
I think that we have to accept, and this is not a political thing, by the way, because I'm not necessarily Democrat or Republican, but I think perhaps we have to accept that some people have to give in order for that to happen. And there is at times in America, if I may suggest, an individualism that at times can be concerning.
Absolutely. Well, and an individualism, that's the American way very often. At times can be concerning because...
And look at me, I love America. I mean,
yeah, of course.
If I had a choice where I'd like to go most times for a short break, I'd love to go to America.
You're joking.
Oh yeah, I think it's a great country.
It's not too busy for you. You come from a busy environment.
Yeah, I love America. But having said that, I think that their system of politics is good because it has all the challenges and the bounces, and it does force ultimately compromise. I mean, you think now of the House of Representatives and the Senate and bringing forward legislation to Obama. He either can veto it and then do nothing, if the truth is told, or he can go and try and between the two of them work out something they can agree.
You're a champion. You're a champion of compromise.
Well, I'm a champion of discussion.
Yeah.
I think that
discussion leads to compromise.
I think that
intelligence.
If you look at the experience we've had in Ireland, talk is a lot better than war.
Absolutely.
And in my own personal experience, in business and in life, that's very important.
Absolutely.
Too many of us want to dig into a narrow area, and the more we dig in, the more harder it is to get out. Whereas I think that, wasn't Sir George Bernard Shaw who said, the only rule is there is no rule.
Absolutely.
So I
can understand.
I think that somewhere in our lives, whether it be in business or anywhere else, the easiest thing is to be dogmatic. But the smarter thing, perhaps, is to allow a little bit of a framework. Absolutely. That ultimately there's space for everybody to find.
We recall a beautiful lady this morning. She's passed from us at this time overnight. Jill Gibbons of Killow and Rostrevor.
Well, a real lady, I must say. You never met Jill that she wasn't smiling. Did phenomenal work for a variety of charities over the years. I can remember Save the Children. She was a tremendous lady. Warren Point Golf Club. Jill Gibbons was a lady who was a great exponent of all that's good in life. She was always a time to say hello. Always a time to say hello. And her family, I know she's 4 children, I think, but Kathy and Tim, who I would know, I don't know too that well, they can be very proud. And Jill Gibbons was a lady. Always a lady.
Totally so. Widow of Stephen, who we lost tragically off the shore at Greencastle in the boating tragedy, just 100 metres from the shore, back 40 years ago or thereabouts. Yeah. And so we wish the family, Gibbons this morning, to be of good heart, to bear up, be strong, and know that the darkness comes before the dawn. And
Warren Point said farewell last week to a very famous character over the years, Bob Waters.
Ah, yes.
Bob was an institution in Warren Point, and we also bid farewell to Bob.
But isn't it nice that we retain the feeling of family within our community? That we can talk about Bob, we can talk about Jill, we can talk about Mary McGivern up there in Aileen Terrace in Newry, widow of, she passed away, her husband is Pat McGivern of the Gasworks in Uri all his life. Good people going from our family, and we can talk about it with affection and with feeling.
Very important, sense of community, sense of being.
Which takes us to reminding people as we conclude this morning of the Christmas charity business dinner that's coming and the Santa run. How's it going? What's happening?
I'm actually just going to a meeting now shortly about it. It's going well. The plans are in place. Fair few people have now shown interest. The Santa Run, a number of key charities, orders for mums, Headway, Pips, etc., are really getting into it. Similarly, the Christmas charity dinner, businesses are starting to respond. We'd still like a few more to respond. There are still some tickets left. But I think the very exciting news is, and I feel it's important to stress this, is that business charity dinner is about an awful lot more than money. But it is very important to acknowledge that as we organise our 15th event, and I fondly recall the first one.
Oh, yes.
I can remember thinking about it and planning it, but we will exceed the £1 million target this year between toys and money. And I think from a community point of view, that's a tremendous achievement. But I don't think we broke anybody's pocket in the process.
No.
It was a broad community effort. The idea was to spread among a large number as opposed to focus on a small number. Not just for money purposes, but to create that community sense, that community being that Christmas season is starting, and it's a great start to the Christmas season.
Another thing close to your heart. By the way, tickets are available from the mill, from Feargal's.
The Chamber of Commerce, anybody. We'll get you tickets. The tickets
you
won't
want
be an
the
issue.
tickets, you go and you find out and go to that event. The other thing that's close to your heart, the church in the middle, the Catholic church in the middle of Warren Point. The scaffolding has come down. The bells shall ring again.
Yeah, you're doing good homework, Rowan.
Wow.
Yeah, no, as you know, I was joint chair of that with Callan
You were.
The Save Our St. Peter's. And again, a great community effort. An interesting strategy was used there, Rowan, in terms of trying to make it happen. We decided we weren't going to start the project till we were happy we had a commitment to pay for it. And I think there's a model in that.
Oh, yeah.
And from a business and economic model, it was not unsimilar to the Christmas charity dinner. We felt in the current environment, as opposed to go to businesses, we would try and spread this among an awful lot of people.
Yes,
Over 700 people got involved in commitments of £1,000. And you can imagine that's a lot of money. £21 a week for 4 years. The good news is that project is coming to a completion, and it will be funded. And in today's world, there are not many projects that will be funded in their totality and completed to the planned quality that was always. Actually, if the truth is told, the job spec actually improved as a result of funding secured for heritage in various places and people. But the bottom line is, what was initially purely emergency has been slightly complemented now by some basic requirements that were required but weren't emergency. So it makes sense to do it at the one time, and certainly we'll be very hopeful that church will be operational for Christmas.
Yeah, I said to John, I said, it'll be a great midnight mass this year. And he smiled sitting in that chair and said, yeah, it will. But I mean, it's his legacy really, because he'll be retiring in the near future. His time has come, he says.
Well, I think the key point to John Kearney is that he's a people's person. And if you're looking for an example of somebody who's made a difference, he's one.
Oh, yeah. John is a man.
In many, many spheres, John Kearney's name will pop up.
Oh, yeah.
And I have no doubt if you're in the hospital tonight, you'll see John Kearney. Yeah. And his good works extend far, far beyond Warren Point. We're just fortunate to have him.
You are indeed. Feargal, thank you very much indeed. God bless you. Go well.
Thank you very much.